one of the worst nightmares I've ever had. Perhaps it's because my parents and I just moved into a new, unfamiliar town, and we're staying in a hotel while we wait for our home to be finished, but I just can't get it out of my mind. I was walking down the streets in the town, but there was something off about it. There was no moon, no stars, and all the streetlights seemed to be emitting a false light from the outside of the glass rather than the bulb on the inside of the glass. The light from the streetlights, they never reached the ground. You only knew that there was any light at all if you looked directly up at the tip of the streetlights. The asphalt on the street seemed to be made up of some sort of liquid rather than the usual solid form. It was looking to be flowing like a black river. I knew I couldn't allow myself to touch the asphalt, but I wasn't sure why. All the buildings were just strange colors. There were the normal greens and the blues and reds, but they seemed so off. It was as though they weren't really colors at all, but a trick of the shadows that caused your eyes to see colors that weren't really there. Sections of the building were completely engulfed by shadow. These shadows were so thick that they appeared to be made of ink. I couldn't shake the feeling that if I touched these shadows, part of them would come off on my hand. I continued my walk down the street, making sure to stay in the middle of the sidewalk, seeing as the night was pitch black. I should say I more fumbled down the street rather than walked. I happened upon an inhabitant. Just like the rest of the street, something was really off about this person. For one, you couldn't see her eyes. You could only tell that they were there. But they weren't empty sockets. You could only see the same inky shadow that covered the section of the buildings. Her skin was completely pale and seemed to emit a soft light. But just as the light from the streetlights did, the light never illuminated anything around it. I couldn't see the sidewalk or the surrounding area or anything around her. I could just see complete blackness. I asked her where I was, and she didn't speak, but smiled. Even her teeth were off, but I couldn't pinpoint it exactly what it was about her teeth that caused me unease. Upon closer inspection, I found that her incisors were a bit too long to be normal. This seems like a normal defect, but it threw me off nonetheless. Needless to say, I continued on my way. I eventually reached a large building, a building that blocked the entire street and sidewalk. There was no way around it. It seemed to go on forever. This building was completely engulfed in the inky shadows, but unlike the other buildings, these shadows moved. They dripped down the building and pooled on the ground. The ink, still on the walls, writhed and slithered. I felt my way inside and saw that what must have been the whole entire population of the town inside. They weren't awake, but hung from the ceiling in cocoons of blankets and shadow. Ink dripped from their eyes and dropped onto the floor. Frightened, trying not to awake any of the supposed people, I snuck back outside. On my way out, I tripped over a lone person sleeping on the floor. They cried out in surprise. The people in the cocoons awoke. That's when I woke up. I called for my parents in the darkness of our hotel room, terrified. They rushed to my side, obviously worried. I told them about the nightmare that I had. They looked at each other, silent for a few moments. I couldn't really remember the specifics of the nightmare anymore, but I still felt uneasy. My mother looked at me and smiled, but I noticed this something, though I couldn't say exactly what, about her teeth was slightly off.